Since we are ranging cosmically far afield in our search for connections, it should be noted that eye and the triangle emblems have been seen on some UFOs and the uniforms of their occupants, and that in recent years a significant percentage of 2,000 UFO sightings reports in Belgium describe triangular craft with lights at each point of the triangle and another light in the center of the triangle. That's from Saucers of the Illuminati by Jim Keith. This is an Adventures Unlimited press book. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. Interesting choice there because Britain just released a whole new big giant bunch of UFO files. So you might want to check that out if you're into that sort of thing. I just want to say a couple things about the supposed left-wing people. The supposed progressives and those who purport to speak for people like me and people like a lot of you out there, and who instead come off as pompous, ridiculous pseudo-intellectuals who only speak to hear themselves utter words and who have nothing valuable to say in any conversation, and instead would do very well to keep their mouths shut instead of spewing the nonsense that they do. And I will give you two examples from recent things that I have seen. Number one, Keith Olbermann at CNBC, pointing out to us, apparently he has done a scientific survey and taking a census of all Tea Party people and has determined that the Tea Party is completely made up of entirely Caucasians and white people. Because it's his assertion that the Tea Party movement is entirely white and is inherently racist. And, well, I'm certainly not here to apologize for the Tea Party movement. I would also like to point out the ridiculousness of what Mr. Olbermann is attempting to do. Here you have a pseudo-intellectual, a person who has a job working for a network, where I do not see him sharing the camera or his comradeship with a lot of black people or a lot of Hispanics. Why doesn't he point out the fact that MSNBC is inherently racist? Because if you look at all of your colleagues, Mr. Olbermann, the vast majority of them, now I, unlike you, have not taken a census of all of them in order to determine that the entirety of your field of business is taken up by white people, and white males for that matter. But I'd venture to say that the vast majority of them are. So why don't we talk about people who talk on TV? Columnists, commentators such as yourself are inherently racist because the vast majority of you are white, and therefore also sexist, Mr. Olbermann, because the vast majority of you are men. So if you want to talk about race, why don't you talk about race in everything, Mr. Olbermann? Why don't you talk about how you are part of a gifted class of people? How you are part of an inherently racist group of people who are rich, white, and male. And probably I'm going to go out on a limb here, Mr. Olbermann, but I'm going to guess that you live in a community that is primarily, if not totally, white. And, you know, maybe I'm treading on thin ice here. I'm going to guess that the vast majority of your friends and neighbors and everybody that you encounter on a daily basis, the vast majority of them are white. So I'm going to say, Mr. Olbermann, if the Tea Party that you have so effectively censused to determine that there's not a Hispanic, a black, or an Asian involved, I'm going to say, look in a mirror, good sir, and tell me what you see. Because what I see is a privileged, rich, white guy trying to tell people what racism is and where it is in society today. Something that this man has never known. Not only has he never known or had any idea about racism, but this man has never had to deal with anything in the way of not getting what he wants. Because he's wealthy. And if he would try to put himself in the shoes of people that he supposedly is speaking for, he wouldn't even know how to put those shoes on his feet. So please, Mr. Olbermann, shut up. Please. And if you have to make some commentary, please, good sir, do not make yourself out to be a complete, blithering idiot by talking about things that you really have no business talking about. And to conclude, yes, racism exists in this country. There's no doubt about it. It can't be denied, and anybody who would try to deny it is clearly foolish. But by the same token, to just automatically classify entire groups of people as holding inherently racist positions is also completely foolhardy. So, Mr. Olbermann, I have no use for you. And until you actually display some level of intelligence, I would ask you very kindly to keep your mouth shut. Secondly, Bill Maher, while on Larry King, says, quite frankly and openly, that the American people are too stupid to understand the issues. And when Larry King asked Mr. Maher if the government taking over healthcare is a socialization of healthcare, he said no, and that people just like to scream and cry about socialism while they don't have any idea what it is, because according to Mr. Maher, all Americans are just stupid, fat, and lazy. And while there certainly are a great many of stupid, fat, and lazy Americans, it is also stupid, fat, and lazy of Mr. Maher to label everybody as stupid. Presumably, this is only people who disagree with his particular position on things. And we certainly know where he stands in 9/11 truth, don't we? When he forcibly evicted someone from his audience for merely expressing their free speech rights, for trying to bring attention to the 9/11 issue. And we've certainly heard him go on and on about this or that particular topic in a very condescending way. And in much the same way that I would say to Mr. Olbermann, I would also say to Mr. Maher, sir, before you open your trap again, kindly do a little bit of research and take the time to look in a mirror. Before you decide to label anybody fat, lazy, and stupid, and that's a paraphrase on my part, he didn't actually say fat, lazy, and stupid, but that is exactly the way he came across. Because you see, he is superior, he's intelligent, and he holds positions and understands the issues that you have no ability to grasp or comprehend because you're fat, lazy, and stupid. You, Mr. Maher, show yourself to be fatter, lazier, and more stupid than anybody you are trying to point out to Larry King on his show for being so far-reaching and so declaratory in what you say. So, Mr. Maher, I have no use for you either. And until you decide to display some modicum of intelligence, I would ask you to keep your mouth shut as well. Thank you. Good night.